Mr. President, I rise today about the most important job that faces the Senate in the remainder of the year, and that is extending the unemployment benefits for millions of unemployed Americans struggling to find a job. I wish I didn't have to be down here talking about this today. I wish it weren't necessary to debate whether we should continue the federal unemployment insurance program. I wish everyone in this chamber would acknowledge that the recovery is still a work in progress, and that we would agree about the critical need to continue to support struggling workers and their families. We've never failed to extend benefits in the past when unemployment was this high. But unfortunately, in today's hyper-partisan atmosphere, even the most common-sense policies can turn into political footballs, and the unemployment insurance program seems to be no exception. The extreme right is on the attack, blaming the victims who have been the hardest hit by this economic crisis. In the same breath that they push for more cuts in corporate taxes and cuts in taxes to high-income individuals, Republican leaders argue that we can't afford to extend unemployment benefits for people who are struggling to find a job. Congresswoman Bachmann, a candidate for president, recently went so far as to say, and I quote, "If anyone will not work, neither should he eat." In an economy where there are 4 unemployed workers for every available job, the cruelty of that comment is simply astonishing. There are 13 million unemployed Americans right now. Actually, I think the figure is probably a little bit higher than that, probably closer to maybe 16 million. They are desperately looking for any job they can find, many relying on unemployment benefits to put food on the table for their children. 6 million Americans will be cut off of this last lifeline if Congress does not renew the benefits for the long-term unemployed. 6 million will be cut off during this holiday season. I hope no one in this body on either side of the aisle would say that they deserve this additional hardship during this holiday season. Now, there are real people and real families behind these numbers. They are our friends and neighbors. I've heard from so many of these hardworking people from my home state of Iowa and across the country. Their stories are truly heartbreaking. A woman from Des Moines recently wrote me, and I quote, "I was laid off in July 2011. I recently attended a class at the unemployment office in Des Moines where I was informed that my unemployment will cease as of December the 31st, if any extensions that are currently in place are discontinued. The average person is currently unemployed for 40 weeks, which is much longer than the 26 weeks that is available without any extensions. I was the main breadwinner in our family, and if my unemployment would cease before I find a job, we would be forced to be on welfare. We would be forced to be on food stamps and other government subsidies. We would also lose our home. I hope that you consider the many other people that are probably in the same situation as I am and hope that you will keep the current extensions in place." End quote. A woman from Stanton, Iowa writes, and I quote, "I lost a great job in June of 2010 and have been receiving unemployment benefits since then. If not for the unemployed benefits, I don't know how we would make it. I continue to look for a better paying job, but as you probably know, Montgomery County has had the highest unemployment rate in Iowa. It's been tough. Will appreciate your support in extending unemployment benefits as I continue my quest for a new position." End quote. Mr. President, the main reason that folks need their benefits to continue is they simply cannot find new work, even after exhausting their benefits. There are simply not enough jobs in this struggling economy. How can we even think about abruptly terminating these benefits right now, cutting off the last lifeline that these Americans in dire need? A man from Esterville, Iowa wrote, quote, "I woke up last week to find my benefits exhausted, but no closer to finding a job. I do everything possible to find work, but nothing materializes. Age discrimination is rampant, and there's nothing an individual can do about it. Right now, after working since I was 12 years old, I'm facing hunger and hopelessness at 57 years of age." A man from West Des Moines wrote, quote, "I'm a home designer architect and have been laid off 3 times since 2007 after working almost 16 years at one firm. I have now decided to go back to school to try to find a different career in information technology. I hate not having a job and want to work, but there's just not anything out there in architecture. Everyone seems to have circled the wagons and are not hiring. Please help. A woman from Madrid, Iowa writes, quote, I lost my job of 32 years, 2.5 years ago. I lived off my severance for the first year, then savings, then went on unemployment. Now my unemployment has run out. I have had a few interviews without any luck. I've been working part-time for minimum wage, and I only get 15 hours a week in. It's the only job that I could find. Mr. President, this is just a sampling of the letters that we get in our office. But it's clear that people want to work. They desperately want to work. Later this week, the committee that I chair, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, will hold a hearing to look at the reasons so many millions of workers who want to work are unable to get back to new jobs quickly. We will hear from experts, workers, and community leaders about the barriers facing the long-term unemployed, especially those over the age of 50. But there are some things we don't need an expert to tell us. We know people can't find new jobs because there are so few jobs out there. As I said, right now, more than 13 to 16 million people officially counted as actively looking for work. But that's an understatement. There are millions more people with part-time jobs of necessity who want full-time work. Millions more on top of that who have basically stopped looking for work because they think a job search will be fruitless. They've already tried time and time again, and they've given up. But if they had a job, if they got a job, they'd take it. When we add them all up, when you add up all of that, plus a number of young people who have not entered the workforce, maybe they've looked for work, they can't find it, they're young, and especially if they're young and African American, where the unemployment rate soars to above 30 to 40%. They're not counted as part of the unemployed because they've never had a job, but they can't find one, but they're not counted. So if you add up all that, we're talking about nearly 28 million unemployed and marginally employed people in America. There are many other barriers to reemployment. I've talked about older workers. Not only have many of them gone through their retirement savings, many have lost the home that they spent decades paying a mortgage on. They've been unable to send their kids to college. On top of that, they face the indignity of being passed over in favor of younger workers simply because of their age. Again, that's not to say that young workers have an easy time. I've also heard, as I said, many stories of young people, many with college degrees, who can't find work. They're piecing together a meager existence on part-time service jobs that waste the time, effort, and money they poured into an expensive education. I can't tell you how many young people I've talked to who have got a college degree. They are not working in their chosen profession, but they're working at mostly part-time work or at service-oriented jobs that they know will not last them a lifetime. And service-oriented jobs that pay them a pittance of what they should be earning with their college degrees. Still other workers here, they can't be considered by certain employers because they've been unemployed for too long. This is so even when a recruiter tells them they are perfectly qualified for the job. More workers would like to move in order to take advantage of a new opportunity they've heard about elsewhere, but guess what? Their house is underwater. I mean, not physically. That means that they owe more on their mortgage than what the house is worth, and they can't sell it. Or they've been out of work so long they have no money left to even afford to move. They can't even afford to pack up the U-Haul and move someplace. Still other workers have trouble with transportation or childcare or other day-to-day issues that make it much harder to get an employer to take a chance on them. Someone said to me one time, well, you know, people who don't get a job, there are places in this country where there are jobs, they can move. It's a free country. I said, well, what about a single mother, got 2 kids, and she relies upon her mother as a babysitter, as a child care person, to take care of the kids when she's out working on a minimum wage job, maybe part-time, how's she going to pack up and move those kids when she's got, quite frankly, free help from her mother? Now, these are real barriers that real people face every day in their lives. I think they illustrate why the long-term unemployed who are working hard and playing by the rules still can't get a job because of factors beyond their control. Rather than chastising the victims, we should be giving a hand up to people in their hour of greatest need and helping them to get back in the workforce. This support is critical, not only for the workers and families affected, but for our economy overall. Research shows that for every dollar of unemployed benefits that are spent, we generate $2 in economic activity. Now, why is that? Because this money is not saved, it's not put into a shoebox, it's spent on essentials, helping businesses up and down Main Street and communities across the country. In addition, if unemployment benefits are extended, we will save about 560,000 jobs, according to the Economic Policy Institute. By contrast, if we fail to renew these benefits, our economy will be deprived of many tens of billions of dollars in economic activity next year. And again, this will have a negative impact on overall gross domestic product. So on the one hand, with benefits, we boost our economy. With a potent return on investment, we help people in their hour of need. We meet our moral obligations as a society. But without benefits, we hurt our economy by shrinking consumer demand, by destroying jobs, and we don't meet our moral obligation as a caring government and a caring people. So there's a strong economic case for renewing unemployment insurance, but I also say there's a strong human case for extending the benefits. Where is our basic human compassion? The thought of letting these benefits expire is unconscionable, especially during this Christmas season. After looking for work for at least 6 months, but often more, many of these people already have lost their jobs, their homes, their savings, are now in risk of losing their last lifeline, the roughly $300 a week they receive in unemployment benefits. The bills don't stop coming when someone loses his or her job. The rent or mortgage, the electricity, the car payments, all have to be made. The family still has to buy food, gasoline, medicine, school supplies, clothes. Unemployment benefits are a lifeline for the millions of folks who are living without an income and just trying to survive. These benefits kept more than 3 million people from falling into poverty last year. We have a moral obligation, those of us privileged to serve in the Senate and the House, to continue the federal unemployment insurance programs while the economy continues to slowly recover. We cannot allow these benefits to expire. We cannot allow millions of our friends, neighbors, and relatives to sink into absolute poverty and desperation. We cannot fail to take action, because that failure will result in families being put out on the street, children going to bed hungry, families left to shiver in the cold of their unheated homes. So I urge my colleagues to vote on this matter as soon as possible. During this holiday season, it's cruel to put millions of unemployed Americans in the position of wondering how they're going to survive come January the 1st of next year. So let us renew these benefits for another year. Let us spend the next year doing everything we can to rebuild our economy, create jobs, provide employment to everyone who wants to work in this great nation.